Casser-Jayne, and welcome to the Halli Casser-Jayne Show, a podcast akin to the great salons of times past. Pour yourself a martini, grab a spot on your favorite sofa, and listen to the great artists, writers, politicians, and celebrities of our day discuss and debate the current political and economic scene, art and music, film, literature, or maybe talk about the newest trends in fashion, design, and haute cuisine. Whether it's the current political cocktail or the latest must-read award-winning book, we tackle all topics and like to stir and sometimes shake things up. I recently had the pleasure to speak with one of my favorite journalists, Matthew Cooper, a veteran White House correspondent known for his in-depth reporting and analysis from Washington, D.C. Our conversation recorded just following the guilty plea of President Trump's longtime lawyer and fixer, Michael Cohen, and the guilty verdict of Trump's one-time campaign chief, Paul Manafort. We tackle both stories, the possible impeachment of President Trump, the midterms, the Democratic Party's future, and so much more on this episode of the Halli Casser-Jayne Show. Let's get to it. Journalist and veteran White House correspondent Matthew Cooper is known for his in-depth reporting and analysis from Washington, D.C. Mr. Cooper has worked for some of America's most prestigious magazines, including Time, Newsweek, The New Republic, National Journal, and U.S. News and World Report. He now serves as a contributing editor to Washingtonian magazine. For the record, Cooper also earned national attention during the CIA leak case when he was held in contempt of court and threatened with imprisonment for his refusal to name his sources and to testify before the grand jury regarding the Valerie Plame CIA leak investigation, a story that went all the way to the Supreme Court. Cooper has appeared on 60 Minutes, Meet the Press, Hardball, The O'Reilly Factor, and This Week with George Stephanopoulos. He has covered Donald Trump extensively, his hard-hitting and insightful profiles of the Donald, always well worth the read. Let's talk. So, Mr. Cooper, did you and I just pick a day, or what?
We did, good.
I think the it's hit the fan.
Something shaking.
All right. We begin to record, and here's how the last, few hours have been. Former Trump campaign chair Paul Manafort found guilty on 5 tax fraud charges, 1 charge of hiding foreign bank accounts, 2 counts bank fraud. Mistrial declared for other 10 charges. That was the first thing. Second, former Trump fixer Michael Cohen pleads guilty to 5 counts of evasion of assessment of income tax liability, 1 count false statements to a bank, 1 count causing an unlawful corporate contribution, 1 count excessive campaign contribution. Let's go to 3. The president's former fixer, Michael Cohen, testified that he broke the law to conceal information from the public in coordination and at the direction of a candidate for a federal office whom it would have hurt. That's the President of the United States. And the GOP chairman of the Senate Intel Committee said recently they had re-engaged Mr. Cohen and his team regarding press reports that suggested he advanced notice of a June 16th meeting between campaign officials and a Russian lawyer at a Trump tower. POTUS might be an unindicted co-conspirator. You and I have both been around a little bit. This tops Nixon.
Well, it's not good. It's not good.
Talk to me.
That's great.
What I mean, let's chunk it down. First, let's start with Manafort. The president just got off the plane in West Virginia. By the way, you'll appreciate this. He gets off the plane with Shelley Capito, More Capito, whose father also went to jail.
Oh, nice. Yeah, that's very fitting. That's right.
I mean, most people
Arch Moore.
Arch Moore, right? And I'm thinking to myself as I'm watching this, and of course as the press was asking him 1,000 questions, he wasn't interested in any. He wanted to talk about Manafort. He didn't want to talk about Cohen because that's the real, and he gives his famous line, this has got nothing to do with collusion or conspiracy with Russia. This is just a phony witch hunt. Okay, let me throw it to you, and let's talk first Manafort. What implications is there for the president?
Well, I think they're pretty, potentially serious. Manafort was the campaign chairman during the time when the Russians were taking a big interest in the American election and trying to steer it towards Trump. He was at that famous meeting at Trump Tower. And, he's obviously, he was the campaign chairman, so he's in the center of the action. I think, just to step back a second, I think in one single day where a president's campaign chairman and his personal attorney are both convicted on multiple, convicted on multiple counts of various felonies. That's pretty serious. Now, I think we're still in the same place. Okay, we got that. What does it mean in terms of Trump and collusion? And, what more are we going to find out? If Cohen starts to talk here. So, some things we know now, others we don't.
But there is something interesting in that. We've all been ginned up with this Russia thing, and we know it's real, and it's pretty awful. Not the first time this kind of thing has happened. We even do it. So, all of that. Have we missed the focus, and that's the criminality of this president? Should that maybe have always been the focus, and the other kind of, but in other words, they're coming from two very different places. One is, talk to me on that score.
All right. I think if you leave the Russia collusion out of it, we still have a president who has broken with established norms about, putting his money in a blind trust, which every other president does, releasing his tax returns, which every president since Nixon has done. He's done a lot of things that are really eyebrow-raising, to say the least. So, this is kind of in keeping with that. This is people very close to the president who are engaged in real criminal enterprises. And, Trump has not even tried to avoid the appearance of impropriety. It's really something. And so, I think we're just going to have to see where we go from here.
But I wanted to focus on just that. There are a lot of reasons why this occurred, why there was so much more focus put on the Russia thing. And people, the press, certainly Republicans and, Republican Congress sat back because they're more ideologically focused, obviously, than they are law-focused. That's clear. And did nothing and just watched. And the Russia thing is obscure in a way to the average American's minds. You and I are, left coast, right coast kind of people. We're not flyover people, but most Americans are. And I think that Russia thing is very obscure to them. I wonder how they're going to react now when they start to really put the pieces together and see the President of the United States is a crook.
Well, we're going to find out. So far, what outrage there's been has been mostly about the Russia stuff. Right. I don't know. We're going to find out. Some of the worst stuff, like his continuing to, the emoluments clause stuff, there hasn't really been much outrage about it. No. Although I think it's kind of the most outrageous.
You called him venal.
Venal, yes. I have called him venal.
I love that word.
So it's a good word. It doesn't get enough play. It's true. Look, this is, you got a commerce secretary who's been accused of, playing the markets. Some of his biggest supporters in Congress, like this guy Chris Collins, the congressman from New York State, who is, who's insider trading while he's in Congress.
Here's the most basic sentence one could say about all of this. Water seeks its own level. Am I right?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay, so let me go here with you because we're talking about the fact that it's clear that this is a crooked bunch. Let me take it out one step further. I brought up Congress, the Republicans. First of all, within all of this today, with the Michael Cohen thing and him saying implicitly that he was acting at the direction of the president on the payoff, which was campaign finance violation. Huge. Then you get to something else, which is, what did the RNC know? What did Reince Priebus know? What did they all know? What do the people in the White House know? You know, everybody who's representing this president. It's a much bigger trail to sniff down than, you know, on face value, one would say after today's shenanigans.
Right. Well, that's a good point. I mean, there could be a fairly big universe of people who know about some of these things. I mean, let's just take one bit. I mean, the payoffs to the women. I mean, first of all, we're at a point where, like, the president has, you know, sex with a porn star with his pregnant wife and pays her off, and they've basically admitted to that, and that alone is not hurting him. Then the question is, like, does the payoff violate a campaign finance law? The fact is, campaign finance laws are, you know, there are a lot of people who go to jail for campaign finance violations, but some do. And, you know, we'll see what a Democratic House, you know, might do with that in terms of impeachment 6 months from now.
But yeah, I was watching my Twitter feed, as I'm sure you were doing before we went on air, and didn't look like there was a lot of noise coming from the Republicans other than the same line that Trump gave, which, you know, they reverted right back.
Yeah. Who are these two people? Whatever. Whoever they are, this Manafort, I don't know who he is. Right.
You were getting a lot of, Paul Manafort's a good guy, you know, he just got caught in a bad, you know, deal kind of thing. I mean, that's all the Republicans are screaming.
Who doesn't have trouble with their tax returns?
I mean, you know, it's like, okay. But the thing becomes at this point that you have to absolutely look at this and say the entire Republican Party, and by the way, the evangelical church, are invested in this president. Hook, line, sinker. You think they're going to let us stop him just on a little campaign finance deal? And are we going to be able to elect this blue wave, which we'll talk about in more depth in a minute? But what I'm saying to you basically is, does this not empower that corrupt group, which would go down with this president? They're so invested in him at this point, to fight even harder to make sure that they don't lose the House.
Well, there's no question that's, you know, the Republican Congress is invested in the president, and they're fighting for him, and they're gonna stick by him. There may be a little grousing privately, but they're sticking by him for now, and they're going to fight like hell to keep their seats in November. But we don't know what the world's going to look like after that. I think if they get really clobbered, and they may not, but if they do, I think they may think twice about how closely they want to associate themselves with him if he's really starting to pull them all down. But we don't know yet.
Does today do that? Does today make them go?
No, today doesn't. No,
today. That's interesting.
I think they're on board for the next, you know, unless something else happens. I think they're just on board with, like, hey, you know, we gave you tax cuts and it's a great economy, and, you know, here we are, keep us around. I think that's where the basic, you know, average House Republican member is for now. Now, you know, in the swing districts, they're going to probably have to panic a little bit. The ones that look like they're going to go down, especially the suburban districts, I think that's really where the Democrats are going to do their best pickups. You know, you may see more distance from Trump, but for the moment, yeah, it's still his party.
Okay, so let me also say this then. Let's talk about the Dem leadership. I've been very disgruntled with them. I don't know if you've noticed, but I've been waxing eloquent or ineloquent about them because first of all, who is Chuck Schumer? I forget what he looks like. I haven't seen him on any. I mean, this guy has completely and totally gone off into la la land. You know, he tweets, but that's about it. You don't see him. He makes no effort to get on you know, the talk show circuit or anything like that. Nancy Pelosi, I'm having great pity for because she's being Hillarized at the moment.
Totally.
And reacting exactly as badly as Hillary did, by the way. They're not on top of that story either. That's got legs. What's going on with the Dem leadership? Oh, and I'll throw this in if you want to bring it in now, or we can pick it up again later. I mean, even with Kavanaugh, who there really is an issue about whether this guy should get a hearing right now. And there are ways to stop him from getting a hearing right now. That's how ineffective. If it weren't for the resistors and the resistance, if you will, I don't think Trump would be in half of the hot water he's in now, because it did not come from Dem leadership. Talk to me about that. You may not agree. I don't know.
Well, I'm of two minds about it. I think, I don't think they have great messaging. No, I mean, it's not like they have like a really sort of determined, consistent kind of message out there about Trump and a clear messenger. Part of that is that, when you're in the minority and you're out of power in the White House, then, so the nascent presidential candidates start to have more of a microphone, like, Sanders or Warren or Cory Booker and others. So, yeah, that's part of the problem. And I think on Kavanaugh, they were screwed after they've just gotten their clock cleaned, right? I mean, they lost the seat. They lost the Merrick Garland seat. They got killed on that. And then they agreed not to change the filibuster rules on the Supreme Court. So they're getting screwed on Kavanaugh. And I don't think they're even messaging very well on Kavanaugh. I mean, let alone get to a vote. I mean, they just, I don't think they've done very well. Like the Democratic group, there was a report that the Democratic groups, the anti-Kavanaugh, confirmed Kavanaugh groups, haven't spent very much.
In other words, they just throw in the towel on everything. On everything.
I mean, it really...
Yeah, right?
Yeah, it feels really bad on Kavanaugh. I think they've really, absolutely. And they have things to work with,
That's why I'm so upset about it, because there are things to work with. And I was thinking the other day that if they would just get their acts together and walk to the Capitol steps and get some kind of crazy going.
Yeah, I mean, they should be. I mean, maybe as we get closer to hearings and things, they'll start to really.
How much more do you
shut
have?
down
It's
the government.
2 weeks.
But we're in the stretch. I agree. Unless
what's their thinking? That's what I want to know. What is their thinking? Why are they taking this back seat? And it's not just Kavanaugh. Any little thing that comes up where they might have a push. It's been done by the grassroots. It has not been done by leadership. And I'm wondering. Are they somehow being paid off by Trump also? I mean, it's just, it's all so shady over there on Capitol Hill these days.
Well, they don't want to demand impeachment yet. They don't see it in their polling, and they're cautious by nature. And so you're not seeing Chuck Schumer and Pelosi saying he should be impeached. So
I don't think he should be impeached now either. I agree with you. Okay, but that's not what I'm saying. I'm saying that they're not opening a mouth about anything at any time. They're tweeting, except they don't get the kind of focus on their tweets that Trump does. So why are they tweeting? Get off of Twitter.
I don't. It's interesting. It's interesting to see who sort of breaks. Who are the emerging stars in the party, and who's going to, kind of find a voice here?
Well, that's another conversation we could have, because we're curious as to who. Well, let's just go there. Who are the emerging stars? Because I got problems with a lot of these people. You talk to me.
Well, I can imagine you do. Well, look, we know who the senators who are interested in running for president are. Who are at least being talked about, and Elizabeth Warren and Sanders again, maybe, and Cory Booker and Kamala Harris, and I must be forgetting someone else.
This guy from Washington State too, right? What's his name?
The governor, Inslee. Yeah. I think in the end, like 50 of them are going to run. So, I think the lesson of the Trump and Obama years is like,
throw out everything you got.
Why you don't need to wait to be senior. Obama showed that. You can be, you can be a crazy person like Trump. I mean, why not just go for it? So I think a lot of them will go for it.
Who do you think has actually got a possibility
of winning or getting the nomination?
Well, at least nobody winning. We can have that conversation. But
I don't see.
But just getting the nod, or at least getting to the top 5
in to get the nomination.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I don't know. I guess I would say sort of, Warren or Harris maybe. I think Sanders a little old and a little rough. And I think the lefties don't like Booker because they think he's too corporate. So, and some of the lefties have trouble with Harris because she was a prosecutor and some things. But I would sort of say Warren and Harris at the moment have kind of in that.
I don't see Warren. I'm doing a show on her in a couple of weeks.
I don't know. I mean, I don't know if she gets in it, but I think the Hillary campaign exposed a lot of sexism out there.
Yes.
And and she had the best national security credentials any woman's going to have for a while. And I don't, I just don't see either of them really present. Oh, Gillibrand, Jesus. I don't think she's going to present exactly.
She blew it. She blew it. She blew it.
Yeah.
She blew it. She went after the star of the Democratic Party who had the best chance, Mr. Al. But it's interesting.
I think maybe you're with me on this, Halli. I think find the best admiral or military person you can. Admiral Mullen, who is the Joint Chiefs Chairman, or McRaven, who's the president of the University of Texas,
or a former CIA officer who just lost his.
Clearance. I think that's where you can get your really.
I agree with you.
Mattis would be the best. He would just say I was there and he's crazy.
Well, I
tried to help the country.
Well, I think what you're really saying is, can we get back to real stateswomen? That's what you're really saying. You're saying, can we get back to basics here and people who really know what the hell is going on in the world?
I just think
we got to clean it up. Yeah, we need to clean it up too.
Yeah, I think biographically, Obama was a senator, but I think generally the Senate is not great perch for running.
I agree.
Governors tend to do better, but the Democratic gubernatorial bench is so weak.
Well, not many of them out there either. Thank you.
I mean, Brown. Brown's 80 and he's leaving. Cuomo's a thug. It's not a great. And I feel like the era of the smart governor you haven't heard of is kind of over.
They're all.
I don't know.
Because politics is attracting a new breed of cat than when you and I were coming of age.
Exactly. Now I'm thinking the Oprah thing makes more sense.
Oh, no. No. I like to listen to her when I meditate, but I don't want to hear from her or anybody like that. I want no more stars out there.
You got a candidate?
I don't. I don't. I'm so disgusted at this point. It's beyond imagination. I was a big fan of Booker. He comes from both Matt and I are both New Jersey.
Oh yeah.
And he comes from our territory, and I thought he was great, and I don't know, he lost it along the way. He went. He's done some weird stuff, so I can't. I'm not happy on him. Kamala Harris is too young, too inexperienced to California. So I think that's not going to work now. And quite frankly, this woman thing, let's see how it works in the midterms, all these women running. And who gets in. Because those are pockets, and I think we have to talk local, because that is something that's new in the picture. I think we're going back to local.
No question.
And I like that. And I like the fact, that we gear our politicians who we want to vote in on what they're doing locally. Then it begins to matter. Then they can really have effect. So I don't see. I think we have to wait to see, because I think after the midterms we're going to have a much better sense of how this country is moving in a lot of different directions, not just with who gets into the House and whether the House goes Democratic, or how close we get in the Senate, or whether or not Trump gets impeached, which will change the whole trajectory of all of this. So I think maybe we're going into soon, but the next couple of weeks or November is going to tell us where we actually stand and what the possibilities are in all of this. I just want this whole cast of characters, if you ask me, wipe the slate completely clean as far as I'm concerned. Democrats and Republicans, because they all are stinky at the moment. That's my opinion.
Yeah. And what's going to happen in that Senate race in Florida where you are?
Let's talk.
I mean, this one has kind of snuck up on people.
Well, I'll tell you what. First of all, Rick Scott's a sleazebag. He's bought his way into every office that he's had. He has destroyed the infrastructure of Florida. The stench from the algae, because he didn't take money from Congress. Whatever money he took, he didn't use properly. He didn't care. He's allowing all the building, encroaching in on what he's dealing with big sugar, and he doesn't care what the algae does, yada, yada, yada. And now he's trying to clean that up because he's gotten caught. I mean, this is a guy who takes pictures with a dog that he picked up at the pound, right, to foment, support.
Yeah.
And he gave it back like 2 days after the election. I mean, this is not a good man. Okay. And then you have Nelson, who's a sweetheart of a guy. He's pretty much a straight shooter. He works
Former astronaut.
And can you do better than that? Although down here, Scott is saying he wasn't really an astronaut. He paid to go to the moon. You got to see the ads down here. They're really something. But Nelson is a good man, and he's got a lot of respect here. Here's our problem. There's that little corridor where I live, Vero Beach area.
Yeah.
Right? Over to Orlando. That quad.
Little I-4.
Oh, it's a mess. It's a mess. And, we've got a real small contingency here of Democrats, although I did a little study. You'll be thrilled to hear this.
Yeah.
And I went out to find out, because you never saw signs during the 2016. Hillary wasn't anywhere to be seen.
Right.
But she did get votes. So I was talking to a lot of women, along the way here. And I discovered that while husbands were voting for Trump, the women here either didn't vote because they were afraid to vote. They didn't want to get into a contest with their husbands. But here's the famous line that I get to almost every woman that I meet here, who I think are going to be Republicans, who say to me, I lived with this guy for 35 years. I didn't know he was such an idiot and could vote for a guy like Trump.
You think there could be divorce lawyers after this?
I think not only could there be divorce lawyers, but I think that there's a hidden vote that is now not going to sit back and watch all this play out the way it's been playing out, but is going to now open up a mouth and is now going to, if not do it publicly, at least do it in the voting booth. Yes, I do think that there is a change to come in here. You also have big building coming into Central Florida, which wasn't here before, and it's only happened in the last 2 or 3 years, really 2 years. And so you get a lot of New Yorkers and Bostonians are moving down here to this area of Florida, which was very undeveloped.
A lot more Puerto Ricans too, right? But
that Puerto Rican vote's a strange vote, isn't it? That Hispanic vote, you don't know which way it's going to go all the time.
Right, sure.
So I'm not seeing much of anything.
So you don't think Nelson's a goner?
I don't think he's a goner. I don't think he's a goner. But they're going to have to pump a lot of money, and I understand they have pumped a lot of money, which he's holding out to the end to use.
Well, that would be smart.
And that's what I heard.
And your governor? Who's your governor going to be?
That's tough.
Graham?
There's certainly on the West Coast, Tampa area, they're all for her. I can't tell you here. I mean, I'm on the East Coast of Florida. A lot of Jews here, so they see Green and they see the other guy. They're like, yeah. And the former mayor of Miami. I'm not sure about that yet. She's just starting to get legs now, but they look pretty sturdy, by the way.
Yeah. She's pretty good.
Yeah,
she's his daughter, right?
Yeah,
she's the senator's daughter.
The senator's daughter. And he was also the former governor, wasn't he, Graham?
And he was the governor several terms.
Right.
Yeah.
So they got family history, big Florida name. But you got that Republican crazy, bedrock. Further north you go in Florida, the further south you get.
Exactly.
And you got a lot of Republicans still here, and it's still guns.
No question. Well, and the older people. That's where Trump does well.
I know, but
generally.
Here's what you are seeing. You are these kids down in at Parks. I can't think of it now. Who were where the shooting took place, Parkland.
Right, Parkland. Right.
So they've got a lot of control down there, and they're making a lot of noise and a lot of headway down there. And I think that's a pretty easy vote. I will be curious to see what happens after the primary. Then you'll start to really get a feel on that's the last week in August, because it's a weird time here. That's when I think you're going to start to see things really start to take shape. But I started to say that the further north you go, the further south you get, and too much of the voting is going on in this crazy packet up to Pensacola and what have you. But look, if they're all, Trump could blow it for him. For the local, I mean, after today, I'm wondering whether Rick Scott's going to, be kissing the president's, took us. Yeah,
I hear you.
So that'll be interesting.
No, you got a very interesting set of races,
and it's gonna make. But what's the difference in the Senate anyway? Because Senate's not going to go Democratic.
Not going to go, but you hate to if you're Democrats, you hate to dig a hole.
Yeah, no, I get that. You are listening to the Halli Casser-Jayne Show. My guest today is veteran White House correspondent and contributing editor to the Washingtonian magazine, Matthew Cooper. The Halli Casser-Jayne Show posts new podcasts Wednesday, 3 p.m. Eastern at hallicasserjayne.com and is available wherever you listen to your podcasts. Be sure to find me on Google Podcasts, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or on whichever is your favorite app. You can find the Halli Casser-Jayne Show on your Alexa device, too. Oh, and come play with me on Twitter at the Halli CJ Show. Okay, let me throw out a fun name. Whose name am I going to throw out when I say a fun name?
Could be anybody.
Giuliani.
Oh, boy.
What the hey?
You're a young woman, but I'm old enough to remember when whatever you thought of him, you at least took him seriously.
Jesus. I mean, it's scary stuff.
I mean, he was a formidable figure. He was a formidable prosecutor, formidable mayor. And then, I don't know, starting with this presidential race about 8 years ago, and ever since, he's been on a big slide.
Is he well?
It doesn't feel that way.
Does it? And he doesn't look well, by the way. He's gained an enormous amount of weight, which, I say, is he on steroids of some sort? Because this guy is just massive. But
yeah,
when he talks, it doesn't even sound.
No, I mean, and, a wealthy man should spring for dental work, because that is one bad set of teeth.
I have to laugh. I've been thinking the same thing. It drives me nuts.
What is wrong with his mouth?
Why would any woman kiss this guy? I mean,
I guess, and now he's on to the fourth wife, and
she's gone.
The third is gone, and
the last
I don't know.
He just
it's not right. I mean, it's just it's weird.
Well,
it's weird more than anything.
So,
and I sort of. I was asking people on Twitter the other day about sort of famous people who were like serious and formidable and then sort of went nuts and became irrelevant.
Charlton Heston.
You could say he became a right-winger, but I wouldn't say he quite became irrelevant. I was thinking more like Ramsey Clark, who was the Attorney General of the U.S., but then became a crank lawyer for the Ayatollah Khomeini and Lyndon LaRouche and
Lyndon
other
LaRouche.
things. People really kind of lost it in their later years.
And does Giuliani fit the bill?
He's starting to fit the bill. So but obviously you can see how he and Trump get along. They he feeds Trump's ego and they speak the same language.
Or how about this? He owes Trump something massive, or Trump has something massive on Giuliani. Giuliani was never a fool. Well, he was never stupid. He's stupid now.
He could be doing this under duress.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
It doesn't make sense. But the other day was weird, though. Truth isn't the truth.
No, it's weird. It's weird.
That was, and his response on, did you watch that? Did you see it by any chance? Because it was
I saw the clip. But
okay, the moment was really odd because he went into this. Now stop it. When Chuck started to, come back at him, he said, "You're trying." He knew exactly what he had said, but his retort was so off. Go see if you can find the whole thing because it was just odd. It was just an odd moment. But I think look, he comes out of New York. Trump is out of New York. I think a lot of these characters that are surrounding him are out of New York. And I think that the reason that they're doing his bidding is because he's got something on everybody.
Well, it could be. Or, or he just likes the attention.
Oh, God.
There's always that.
That just goes to show you, talking about the kind of people. It's a whole generation that's lost its way, Matt. That has absolutely no moral turpitude whatsoever. I mean, I go after Franklin Graham. Every day I do one tweet to Franklin Graham, Billy Graham's son. Yeah,
that's really something.
It's beyond. Some of the stuff that this guy puts out there, you just kind of go, huh, what? And I'm going, biggest fail. Billy Graham's biggest fail is his own son. I mean, there's something wrong here. What, did everybody smoke too much pot or drink too much booze or... What? It's like a whole generation is wacky.
Yeah, no, I agree. And, late in life, to be a sycophant late in life, like Gingrich or this, it's sort of unbecoming.
Well, I think Gingrich always was. I don't think that changed for him. I think he was always a sycophant. Let's talk about the press. Let's talk about fake. Yeah, I heard that sigh.
Sigh.
We have to talk about the press.
Yeah.
Okay. We're both members of the press. So,
sure.
So it's fair. We're talking about ourselves in a way, but there are a lot of rat holes to go down here. I don't even know where to start, except to say that it's not right either. They're caught between a rock and a hard place. Let me just go back to the 2016, and they're going and making Hillary a story when there was no story with the emails because they felt it was going to be too easy, yada, yada, yada. And everybody kind of went off half-cocked. Are they going off half-cocked the other way with Trump? Or do you think they're being fair-minded?
I think they're being fair-minded. I mean, I think there's a lot here, and I think there's a lot that they're looking at, a lot they keep coming up with, and a lot of obfuscation they keep getting. So, yeah, I mean, I do happen to think that the emails were overplayed, and this is being properly played, and that may sound partisan, but I think the facts bear that out. That said, I think there's the reporters, and then there's sort of the commentariat in Twitter and editorials, and those I think are often in excess of the facts. So I think there's kind of like a lot of he's a fascist, he's a dictator, the end is here, stuff that's not borne out by the facts as much. I mean, as worrisome as he is, I think there are enough authentically worrisome things about Trump without having to, go straight to Hitler. But most of my Twitter feed is like of the Hitler variety.
Right. I mean, I will make the analogy that this is how Hitler started, and that we have to be very careful about letting little norms kind of slip by, which is what I think is the danger of his presidency, by the way. It's not the big stuff. It's the little stuff. It's the day-to-day, the pardoning of Scooter Libby, or the, if I had to say that, or the, you know what I'm saying? It's the little tiny ways that he gets around the Constitution, or the executive power rules and the norms that have always, we've always protected beautifully, held them to us like, a baby. They just keep slipping by. And that's how Hitler got in. And, he used to read Mein Kampf and the press part of it, which I'm sure you've read, as I've read many times. Trump seems to quite able to do what Hitler did. I mean, look, he's got control over this cult, and it is a cult. You'll not tell me any different, because when facts are staring them in the face, they will still stand with him. That is a cult. I want to say that, and so to say that he's got fascist tendencies, I don't think is unfair. I think you have to be careful how you say it. But of course, there are no rules in social media. You can go down any avenue you want, and you can be the more outrageous you are, or the more snarky you are, the more hits you get, and that fuels the crazy. There's no question about that. That's what my show was about. That's on aired last week. We talked about that at great length. So people are a little off the wall with it, but I also think people are frustrated because they're being egged on, and I'm glad that you separated the media, the press, if you will, from the commentary that's on, Fox or Fox. I don't even know whether we should even talk about Fox in the same sentence as the others. While all of this was going on today, by the way, they were showing the results of a kid who was raped by an immigrant, undocumented.
Of course.
Right. So they absolutely nothing about Cohen, nothing about Manafort. Just that's what their Fox's Twitter feed was all about. But I think that there is a difference. And so now I have to say to you, are we doomed because this is the future? This is MSNBC, CNN, Fox crazy commentary. That's who we are. Twitter feeds, Facebook feeds. Are we doomed? Well,
at least for now, yeah. I think that's until the algorithms change. That's kind of how things are going to kind of feed to people. I think for the foreseeable, we'll see how it goes going forward.
Talk to me about this real quick. Talk to me about because I'm curious what you think. Did these Trump cult people? Have we lost them forever?
No, I look. I mean, I think he's profoundly popular with. It's a profoundly devoted following. But, let's see what happens if we have a recession. Let's see what happens if whatever. He has a real crisis instead of just endless crises of his own making. Well,
we are in a recession for them, by the way. The wages are going down despite whatever. True. Okay. And they don't seem to get that. I don't get that.
Yeah. People are often oblivious to what's best for them. I think of that every time I pass up a salad. It's not really in my interest to have the burger, and yet I have the burger. And people may be like that.
I'm crying.
So I know. Yeah.
Oh God, I don't know. I want to talk about the blue wave again. Ed Rollins, Republican campaign consultant. I don't know how far to the right has he gone in these crazy times. Today he said the blue wave ain't happening. There is talk of that. And then there is that hidden vote that Trump wanted. Well, of course, we think that was Russia, but. What do you think? Are you thinking there's going to be a blue wave, or are you thinking we're ahead of ourselves?
Well,
despite, let me put a caveat there. Despite what the history tells us, throw that.
If I had to guess, I'd say there's enough there for the Democrats to win the House this fall, and that's a big deal. I think, I think we're within pretty normal historical norms for that many seats to change. And, whether it's bigger than that, I'm not as sure. And I think the Senate could actually go the other way. They could lose seats. They're just some tough ones to hold for Democrats. But I think we'll have a Democratic House, and that's going to be very different. I mean, it's all the investigative apparatus are then in the hands of Democrats. The possibility of an impeachment becomes real. So, we'll see how it plays out, but that's how I think it will.
Let me throw out another name, Adam Schiff. We were talking about possibilities. He's a unique person. What do you think about him?
I still always think of the Law and Order DA. But, I think he's got, some people like that kind of, calm, kind of flat demeanor. I think it's pretty good at times like these.
I find him fascinating because he is smart.
Yeah, he certainly is, gets himself out there a lot.
Too bad he's in California, though. That might be the issue.
Right. You mean like President Schiff? Mm-hmm. Or do you just think sort of...
I do think, I think he's an interesting guy.
Yeah, I think, look, anything can happen, and it probably helps that his, foil is this Devin Nunes.
Jesus.
So, I think certainly a lot of Democrats have liked, his sound and his tone and, somewhat prosecutorial demeanor. So
the only problem is he looks like E.T. He has the same shape head.
Yeah, it's a little deer in the headlights. It is a little
but my
E.T.,
girlfriends, all of my girlfriends think he's adorable.
Okay, well,
which I do not. I don't find him attractive.
He should go raise some money. He should go raise some money.
I just thought I'd bring him up because he's not talked about as much as one would think, considering how wonderful he's been. This whole, investigatory thing with against Nunes on the collusion deal. So let's go back to collusion. One of the things I want to clean up. Where are we on that? What do you think? Do you think it happened? Do you think it's a conspiracy? Do you think they're going to nail him on that? That's asking you to go out on a limb. Or not.
Yeah, I don't know yet. I think there's no question they wanted to get dirt from the Russians. That in itself is, kind of collusion. It just depends on what, statutes they may or may not have violated. And, and who did the violating. And we're going to find out. But given the connection, Manafort really is important here because he's so rich and has so many tax problems because he was so close to all these dictators. And you got to believe that they're, avenues of collusion we don't know anything about, aside from this, these characters they sent to that meeting in Trump Tower. So, we're going to have to see.
That was non-committal.
Sorry, I went
around in this big circle, and I'm going, all right.
I'm just not ready. I'm not ready to go with the PP tape or the,
Oh, I am.
He's on the payroll, and
By the way, speaking of that, that what's his name won a great big case in the guy from who came up with the PP tape. What's his face? Steele won a big case in the UK where slander. That's that's big time if you're in there. And he won it. I think I posted something about, get out the umbrella. We're about to be in for some bad showers.
Oh, boy.
I think that was pretty significant because now just about everything has been proven that in that tape has been true. Should Hillary be out campaigning? Yes or no?
I'd say raise money quietly. I don't know. It's up to, she did win the majority of the popular vote. She's sort of allowed to. This idea that she has to go hide is, I think, a little
stupid.
Overwrought. But on the other hand, there are some places she hurts more than helps, and so I assume she'll try to be strategic about what she does this fall. Whereas I think I think Bill Clinton would be helpful in lots and lots of places,
and Obama.
And Obama in lots of places, too, yeah.
Well, I think Hillary made a mistake. She should have gotten out there and really let him have it. Old Trumpy all this time. I think things would have come to a head a lot sooner had she had...
Over the last year.
Yeah, I don't know. Her withdrawal, I just think her withdrawal was... I don't care what anybody... She should have been strong and...
Yeah, no walk in the woods.
Exactly,
just,
exactly.
Really
and so I don't... so she was beat up, I get that, but... I think that was a bad choice on her part. So, and they're gonna keep her in very, small, just where she can go to raise money, and that'll be the end of that So all his cohorts have pleaded guilty, just about. Right? How many are around have gone to jail? So the hypocrisy and the crazy in all of this is how anybody, having seen all of this, and particularly after today, to bring it full circle, this conversation, could think that Trump is innocent. Excuse me, but everybody around him is guilty. I mean, people, by the way, who aren't even connected to each other. He just rolls with crime. He just likes shady dudes. I wanted to make that point, and I'm curious if that makes sense to you.
Well, yeah. I mean, one would follow from the other. But look, it's always good to remember impeachment's very much a political act and not a legal proceeding.
I don't want him to be impeached. I want him to be thrown in jail. I want them to indict him. There is no law that says he can't be indicted. There is
right. I don't think that'll happen.
Well, that would be to me. And if they don't get him while he's in office, let them get him after he's out of office. I'm looking through my notes to make sure that I do. There are two other things I want to talk to you real quick. Okay. The anti-Trumpers, who are now hosts on Fox on MSNBC. There's Steve Schmidt, who is the only one who actually left the Republican Party. What's her name?
Nicole Wallace.
Nicole Wallace, and then you've got the crew. Max Boot, who I've had on the show, and that whole crew. All of them have been here to talk. I'm just wondering what the hell happens when all of this is over. Does the Republican Party bounce back and give them the kind of candidates, and then all of a sudden MSNBC is now the home of the new GOP rather than the Democratic Party?
Yeah, I think it's a fairly narrow band we're talking.
I don't know. My talking all this. There's more of them. Bill Kristol. I mean, there's an all, and there.
No, there's no question.
The ones who are in power. The power. Are there. I just had to throw that out because the whole thing is just, it's all
it's true. That's true. We'll see what becomes of those folks.
So, as we draw this to a final close, it seemed to me that whenever we talk elections now, Matt, we talk about the fact that this is the most important election ever. And you and I have been doing these shows now for years, and we've gone through a lot of presidents. And we got, so here's is this the most important election ever? The most important midterm ever?
It is pretty big. I think it's I think if the Democrats fail to take the House and Trump gains in the Senate, and he's going to have a lot of mo. I think that's a big deal. Yeah, I think it's a very eventful midterm. I mean, look, of course they're all important. They all have the potential to kind of change history or stop a presidency in its tracks. But this would go right up there.
What didn't I ask you that you wish that I had?
I don't know, to come to Florida. How's the weather?
I've been speaking with journalist Matthew Cooper. You can read his insightful reporting at Washingtonian.com and follow him on Twitter at Matty Scoop, that's spelled MATTIZCOOP, and on Facebook at Matthew Cooper. Thank you so much for tuning in to the Halli Casser-Jayne Show. The Halli Casser-Jayne Show is a production of Resec, LLC. Be sure to tune in to the Halli Casser-Jayne Show at HalliCasserJayne.com or listen on your favorite app. New podcasts are posted Wednesdays, 3 p.m. Eastern.